All right, welcome to Natives Fly Fishing. We are here in the basement cooking up some meth. Actually, we're not. We're here making our Appalachian bucktails, but it does kind of give you that vibe down here in the basement. We're gonna start with my dad, Andrew. He's gonna show you the process of deboning the tail, and then we're gonna work through the whole dyeing process and how we cure the tails.
Okay, here we are at Natives Fly Shop, and we're processing bucktails. So these tails come from all over West Virginia. Most of these right now are coming from Tyler County because that's where I live at. And they just, as they get deer into process at a butcher shop, they just cut the tail off and throw them in a freezer bag and send them to us. So what we do is take the tail, and we're deboning it right now. So what I'm doing is just kind of cutting a spot in it to where I can get a hold of it and start pulling skin down off the bone. See, the only way to do it really is just get your fingers in there and start prying the skin off. As you get it down so far, you peel it back. I'm not sure what all these tools are called, but this right here is a gripper where I can put it on the tail itself. Grab another one on the end of it. So there's the boned out tail. And we flip the skin out, stretch it out, get it straight as we can. Slit it right down through the white, or the under part of the tail. Once you get it slit open, you want to try to get all the fat and flesh off of it. More or less the same process if you were going to have it mounted. You got to get all the flesh and everything off the skin.
All right, so after you get your bone out of your tail, the next step is getting the oils out, which in my opinion is one of the most important parts if you're planning on dyeing your tails, which we'll get into here in a little bit. So after you get your bones out, you get them split. We're gonna give them a nice bubble bath, get them soapy and let them soak for a little while and let it start to pull some of those oils out before we put them on the table with the borax and start to dry it out. So let's go ahead and get some soap in the water here and dump those tails in. All right, so we're gonna let those soak for about 30 minutes to an hour. Let them just kind of get some of that grease off of there before we hang them up. There you go, Dad. So my dad's been the one doing all the deboning and processing for months now. He's done several thousand tails, about 1,000 tails or so down here already. But I still come down and help with the dyeing process from time to time. After these soak, we're going to transfer this new batch of tails from the soapy water over to our drying table and put borax on them. And we'll show you that process next. We let that borax sit for 2 weeks, let all the moistures come out of the tail. That's going to set the hairs into the hide itself, keeping them from slipping, and cure that tail so they won't be, rotting or smelly or any of that stuff. They'll be ready basically from that point on to use as a fly tying material. You can take that white natural tail and start tying flies with it, or you can go into the next process of dyeing a tail. And this is something that there's not a lot of good information out there on the internet about, especially black. Black is one of the hardest colors to dye. It's something I've struggled with for a long time, and I finally got a science into it and starting to dial it in now. And I may be overthinking a lot of the things here, but again, it's very hard and hard to duplicate. So one of the most important parts that I have found is good quality water. I've installed a complete reverse osmosis water system here to keep consistent pH, no additives, no chlorine or fluoride or none of that into the water. That can really affect the dyeing process. Another thing I already mentioned is the oils in the tails. That is a huge problem. Any tails that are real fatty and real oily, they're just not gonna take the dyes near as good. So we're soaking them once before the borax and before they cure, and then we soak them again. So after they've been cured, which you can see on our racks over here, we let them sit like that for 2 weeks, sometimes even a little longer, depending on when we get to them. And then we pull them from that rack and we soak them again in some soapy water. And this is again, just pulling all those oils out. Some collars you dye, it's not super necessary to pull all those extra oils out, but when you're talking deep dark collars like black, it's crucial. So we've got our quality water, we've got the oils out, and we're just now waiting on some water to boil. We're gonna bring that water temperatures up to about 180 degrees before we put the tails and dye into the water. So we're gonna wait a little bit longer for these tails to be ready. I'm gonna get the dye stuff set up and ready to roll, and I'll show you that next. All right, so we're getting into a little bit of the science of the process. The dyeing part, it's kind of trial and error, a lot of experimental stuff. These are just notes of years of trying different things, trying to take record to duplicate things. We're gonna do just one bright color, one we call the purple pop, and then we're gonna do a black. So dyes, I highly recommend a good acid dye. This is Dharma acid dye. The thing with acid dyes is you have to have an acid to set the dye. That's where we use the vinegar. So we're gonna start out, we're gonna measure out, get you a little food scale here. Yes, you will feel like you're cooking up drugs while you're doing this, but.
Yes! Hell yeah! Hey, come on, baby! Come on! Yes! Come on! Ah!
We are not doing any drugs down here. This is not our meth lab or anything like that. We're gonna get 6 grams. We got 5, 9, right there. We're about 6 grams is what we want. So we've got 2 gallons of water boiling. Again, that's good, high quality H2O.
What I call high quality H2O.
Oh!
And we put a little bit of salt in that. I don't know how necessary that is. It's just a process I continue to do. We're gonna go get some hot water straight from the water boiling over here, and we're gonna mix this up. All right, so we got the water boiling. We're gonna go ahead and take some of our hot water and pour right over top of that 6 grams of purple. The key is to mix this dye up really good before actually pouring it into your water, because if not, you try to mix that in cold water, it just clumps up. So mix it up good and then pour it in, and then give it a good stir all around. So our purple's in. We're gonna go ahead and mix our acid in. So I do 1 cup of white vinegar mixed right into this. It's gonna help get all the residue dye out and go ahead and get our dye ready to be activated. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and do 1 cup of vinegar mixed right in. This is a very messy process. Having somewhere to do this other than your kitchen is very nice. I see a lot of people do it out in their garage on a little propane cooker. All you need is a kind of a good sized pot. These pots hold about 15 tails very well. I like doing small batch stuff because you can really dial in the concentration of your dye versus your tail. So, All right, so we separated our tails. These ones have just slightly a little more fat or oils on them. Again, these were all pretty good batches. We're gonna take them right over. We're gonna put them right into our purple pop mix. Get your spoon. And you can see they take color pretty fast, right? Especially on a bright color like this. We already put our acid in, so it's setting that color immediately. So we're gonna let those sit now. We've stirred them in there nice, and we're gonna let that cook for about 10 to 15 minutes. It doesn't need to be in there too long. We're gonna kick our scale back on. We're gonna get this ready for black. So we're gonna use the bigger canister because we are gonna load up the dye on this one. And I might get a lot of hate for the way I do black. The amount of concentrate I put in to just 15 tails is pretty, a lot of dye goes into this one. So we're bringing in some RIT dye here. For some reason, it's been the only way I've been able to get black. The straight acid dye, I could not achieve with that. So we're doing 2 bottles of RIT dye. So that is 8 fluid ounces, 236 milliliters. I don't know how that translates to grams, but somehow that does. I'm not that smart to tell you that. Yeah, right. So here we go, jet black. We're gonna do 30 grams of the derma. We're gonna go ahead and load this up. Rainey, you're gonna end up being a black doodle if you don't watch out. Yeah, Marissa would kill me if I came home with a black doodle. All right, 30 grams of that. 27. So we went from 6 grams of the purple pop to now 30 grams plus the RIT. Plus, we got a little secret here to kind of help counterbalance any brown hues. I've started putting in 10 grams of a midnight blue. Again, the concentration is unbelievable compared to any other color I do, but that's the only way I've been able to achieve black consistently. So we're gonna take these over, the amount of dye, and let's go mix that up. All right, same process here. We're going to go ahead and get some hot water, and we're going to stir in our dye. Make sure you stir this well because you have a lot of powder in there. You got to get it to mix up. We're going to do one more. If you've achieved black by dyeing about 15 tails any other way, leave them in the comments. I'd love to see how other people are doing this stuff. That's kind of the reason I'm doing this video, putting it out there. Hopefully somebody wanting to get into doing this has a good resource to try to do their own black now. All right. And straight in with the RIT. It's like, how could it possibly not turn black? I mean, look how much dye is in this pot. I mean, if you dip your finger in that, you're gonna come out looking like Shaquille O'Neal. I mean, that's some black dye right there. All right. Give that a good stir. Now we got to get our acid. And we're going to mix that right into that. probably gonna be canceled for the Shaquille O'Neal.
NAACP is definitely gonna hit you up.
Great.
Like get Jesse Jackson or
A lot of views.
all sharp.
All right, get your acid in there. Boom. Now it's ready for some tails. It's nice on just a little cooktop like this and 2 big pots. You can do 30 tails. We typically do like 4 collars or 4 batches a day. We get each tail here and get it put right into our pot. You can see it takes the dye immediately, but it looks kind of like gray, right? So the thing with black is we're going to let this cook at least 15 minutes. We're gonna watch our temperature here, making sure it stays above at least 180. I don't like baking these things forever and super hot. That's why I go with a higher concentrate. A lot of tails, a lot of ways people do it is they just let this thing cook for 30 or 40 minutes. And what it tends to do is it makes the tail super brittle and they really shrink. So you end up losing a lot of your quality of your tail because you're just overcooking it. So again, my method is over concentrated dyes for a shorter time, lower heat, and it seems to be working pretty good. And that's basically my process. So after the time is up, we're gonna dump these, rinse these, and then we're gonna set them back out to dry out. It only takes about a week to really dry these out good now. And I'll show you a little trick that I've learned is putting some weight on these tails to keep them from shriveling up. A lot of people will pin them to keep them from shriveling up, but you have to have a board and then it's a process to pin it. I just take basically 2 racks, sandwich them, and then I put some weight on them, and that really keeps them flat. All right, let's check it. They've been baking a little while now, so let's see. Yep, blacker than Shaq. That's some black tail right there. We're gonna go ahead and rinse these things. All right, so I give these a nice brushing straight from the sink here. And then I lay them out. All right, I'm just going to double check and look at any of these tails that are starting to roll. Naturally, as these dry, they roll and they curl up. And a lot of times, like from hairline and these companies that aren't really taking the time to make a quality small batch like this, you're going to get some tails that are really just rolled up on you. What I like to do is I'll take this other rack, I'll set right up on top here, and then I'll take these old cast iron skillets were just here in the basement. So I like to use them to add some weight to this. And I'll let them sit like this for about 2 or 3 days. Let most of that moisture start to be pulled out, and then I'll come down, brush them up again, and transition them to another rack to dry for about another 5 days or so. All right, so here's the bucktail wall. Pretty proud of the Appalachian bucktails we got here. Again, all West Virginia harvested deer. This is what they look like all finished. I mean, you can see the awesome collars we've kind of established over the last couple years of doing this. Every tail is a little bit different. That's why it's really nice to be able to see a tail in person, kind of flip through and see, you know, what type of fibers you're looking for whatever type of fly you're tying. But they're all quality. They're all nice, consistent, dyed, and quality tails. So check them out.